Thank you all for joining us, the Agent Boost podcast. Mike and I were actually just talking about pre-podcast notes. Every week when we're putting together our content, it just seems like we can go 100 different directions because there's plenty of content. Just that time of year, we decided to go in a little bit of different direction for this episode. And just to throw it out there, we've actually had a lot of viewers and listeners to the podcast now that we've been doing it consistently for over a year. I think we're on episode 51, 52, whatever.
You don't count a couple of the lost episodes. There's that.
Yeah, every once in a while we have an episode where
we dirted it.
We dirt it for reasons that that we feel like we should dirt, or legal and compliance at a carrier or something like that comes back, and so we got to hide one.
Or the carrier is kind of a bum.
Yeah, every once in a while. So anyways, we kind of thought, though, that it's timely. We have agents frequently from a very like a one-off, conversations that are frequently occurring about, hey, Agent Boost, they want to know more about our organization, what makes us different from other competitors, aligning contracts, what's the agent experience like, and why do people join us? So we've had a lot of people asking us, and so we just thought, like, we're going to take one episode. And candidly, our intention, we don't try to self-promote very often. I think we really could, but we try to not. But I think this particular episode, we're going to go through some of our value props and more about our organization. So, prepare yourselves. This is a semi advertisement. So if you're not up for it and don't want to hear it, hit skip.
Yeah. So here's my thoughts on that. So a couple of things. I think we should set the table with the landscape of distribution and things like that and what we do. Over the years, everybody's always curious as to what FMO does, what do FMOs do? What are the values that you provide?
Correct.
I think that we've had competitors join our webinars. We do a weekly webinar every Tuesday. We call it our recruiting webinar in the afternoon, where we essentially go over this in a faster level, and it's always changing, right, as our value prop happens. But I think a lot of agents out there think that FMOs are pretty commoditized, meaning that they essentially broker their contracts through them, and they may or may not get a lot of support. And so,
but to be fair, I think there's a lot of FMOs out there, and I always say they function more like a clearinghouse, right? Where they're
correct,
just going to hold lots and lots, thousands and thousands of contracts of agents, and they're going to get you connected and get you an agent writing ID and give you access to whatever systems they're offering, and then pat you on the back and go, good luck, buddy. It's rough out there. Hopefully you go make some sales.
Yeah, and so Dan's saying all FMOs are not created equal, and one of the things that I have always think makes us a little bit different, a couple things, and the first is that we're born and bred from the Medicare Advantage space, specifically, and we'll go into all the different product lines that we do. Yep. Dan and I got into the business.
Do you know what memory popped up on my Facebook feed today?
I saw something about working 16-hour days.
A post from 12 years ago that popped up on my feed of me. I post like, man, my day was long. It sucked. 8:30 a.m. until 1:30 a.m. And those are true. Those were like 16-hour days, and they still happen.
Yep, absolutely. And so, a lot of, I don't want to say a lot, but some of our competitors existed in the Medicare supplement space, or they were FMOs or distributors for LTC or MedSups or PDPs. Or life insurance, or
they're just generational businesses.
Correct. And we're one of the only entities that's kind of, I guess, ascended the ladder from the traditional GA, MGA, SGA space from the 2008, 2009 time. And that's, due to Dan and, the way he grew the business, and then me coming back in and helping with it as well. But I think, we're one of the only entities out there that's kind of grown up in this space, specifically with a Medicare Advantage focus.
And done it without outside capital, and
correct,
without doing, any sort of transactions or anything else like that, that it's been completely organic and completely bootstrapped entirely. So.
Yeah. And to that point, just to kind of set the table of the landscape of, we'll talk about ACA and life and all the ancillary products that we do too. But when you look at Medicare and Medicare Advantage distribution, there's a couple of the two large private equity groups, Integrity and AmeriLife. And we honestly really like both those entities. We have friends at the top of both of those entities. They're both very high integrity, very great companies. And, you know, they do, between those two, Integrity and AmeriLife, they own a sizable amount of the distribution in our channel. And we are not affiliated or owned by one of those private equity groups. And there's only a handful of competitors out there that are not owned by...
that are independent,
yeah,
or
independent.
kind of self-sustaining.
We jokingly refer to ourselves as the outlaws, right? And it's only, for us, it's been a timing thing as we've really grown, you know, exponentially over the past few years. We feel like we still have a lot of runway, a lot of growth ahead of us with our business and the way that we do things. And there are some advantages to being independent, as Dan said. And so there's really only, you know, 3 or 4, maybe 5 entities out there that produce like we do, of the same size, that are unowned in the MA space. So that's, you know, as far as where we're positioned in the market and some uniqueness out there. And then, you know, we always want to be forward thinking. Dan, maybe you can talk about how you got the idea for Agent Boost. I mean, you had a small GA and then it kind of pivoted to Agent Boost as a national.
Yeah, I mean, it's more, it went back to, look, over the years, people who know me, I'm a very direct person, and I think that for some people, they really like and appreciate that. They know what they're going to get with me. They're going to get honesty, transparency. I'm going to tell you exactly what I think. People, again, some people it rubs them wrong. Other people, they really like it. And candidly, I've always kind of gone against the grain, you know, and I always wanted to be a little bit different and do things differently. So when it went back to branding, it was more methodical, to the point of, well, look, you have all these, and please don't, I'm not trying to like poo-poo on my competitors or anything else like that, but very traditionally themed, and, you know, family-owned businesses with family names, or things that didn't really describe what they did. And so when I thought about really getting into branding and like, what is the business, who are we, and what do we do? It's, at the end of the day, we're a marketing company. It just, that's what we are, is we're a marketing and sales organization. And insurance and Medicare just happens to be the product that we're actually selling and marketing. And so I wanted the name to be reflective of that. And I wanted it, so that's why Agent Boost Marketing, like we boost, like the whole idea is that the agent is the talent, and we're just there, you know, giving them more boost and more support to make them successful. So that was really the methodology behind the name. And then of course I wanted like bolder colors, red, you know, from a psychology perspective, and black. They're
Power color,
powerful colors, you know, they're not like the safe tones and everything else like that. They want to be I wanted it to be a little bit of abrasive, and I wanted, from a branding perspective, it to really stick out in the space.
Yeah. So, and hopefully we do that. You know, I think that we try to focus on the brand and the visuals and things like that to separate ourselves a little bit.
So for the record, that's who I am as a person. I kind of march to the beat, to the beat of my own drum, and kind of do my own thing. And I just don't typically follow the crowd and do what everybody else is doing.
To be, we want to be disruptive, like that Apple ad. We want to stand out a little bit. And to Dan's point, the insurance industry is very safe, very vanilla, very very Dockers and khakis and button ups and to a good point.
I'm not that.
Yeah, and we're so we do like to kind of try to stand out a little bit. And to that point, we've worked hard on setting vision, mission, and values and goals as a company, and that's one of the things that we go over on our pitch. And our vision is we want to be the next generation of insurance agents, or help create or maintain this next generation of agents. And a lot of people, the average insurance agent is 60 years old, or 59 and a half.
Yeah.
And that's cool, right? Honestly, some of our best agents are older than that, and they're still.
There's a lot of you out there listening. You're in your 60s. You're on Medicare yourself, and you're crushing it.
Yep, and you have frankly, a different work ethic a lot of times than some of the younger generation. You've got great experience, and you're able to kill it. And what we've seen and experienced, and this is just not just an Agent Boost or a health insurance thing, is the generation right below that group, let's call it our generation, Gen X or Gen Z. What's right below us? You made.
I'm going to claim I'm Gen X.
You made
not
millennials.
I'm going to say Gen X all day. Don't paint me in that bucket of millennials.
I'm a Xennial, so I'm that Gen Z, Gen X.
I'm going to take offense.
But there wasn't a lot of interest in the parents or the kids of that generation to get into insurance. It was boring. It wasn't cool. It was get into all these other things. And so there was a gap, almost like a generational gap.
Every parent wanted their kids to be either like a doctor or a lawyer, right?
Yeah. Or, then they got a little bit younger and decided they wanted to be YouTubers or gamers or whatever. And
that's the Gen Z.
Yeah, and now it's kind of boomeranging back around. But, to that point, we want to help those older agents continue to do business in a modern way, and we want to cultivate and create the next generation of insurance agents. And what we really meant by that was, how do we introduce tech, branding, marketing,
and get that adoption?
Yeah,
right.
And that was one of the things where we really started getting some traction early on. Nationally, about 6 years ago, just, pre-COVID and things like that we'll get into. But that's our vision, right? Is we do want to be a little bit of the outliers. We do want to be a little bit more forward thinking, and we view it that our best days are ahead of us, not behind us.
Correct.
And not only that, we also want to make it so what really motivates Dan and I with agents, it's not necessarily, we like money. Of course, everybody likes money. You're lying if you say you don't do this in part for the money.
Right.
But we love to help agents replicate what we've been able to do and really create the lifestyle that they want. All of you guys listening, if you're an agent or an FMO or in the business at all, you probably got into this business because you identified it as some sort of way that you could create the life that you wanted to live, right? Have some freedom, have some flexibility, high income earning potential, but also have an impact, right? Really help people feel good about what you're doing. And that's what we've loved about this industry.
But what I try to remind agents, and I was actually talking to my kids about this the other night, as my kids all have entrepreneurial aspirations and talking about all their businesses they're going to do, which is great, and I encourage it, but they're focused on money. And I just told them, I said, look, anybody who's been very successful in life, most of them were not focused on the money. They were focused, they were passionate about what they did, their product, their technology, whatever it is. And I was the same way. I was passionate about being a great agent and being the best in the marketplace. And same thing in our FMO space. I want to be the best there is. So we're constantly refining processes, trying new tech, doing X, Y, Z, because we want to be the best. And I just feel like if you're focused on that, then the money is going to come as a byproduct. And that's what I tell my kids. That's what I tell agents. Focus on working hard and being amazing. The money will come.
Yeah. And, counterpoint to that too is that this is a business that if you're an independent agent, you own your own business and you are solely responsible for, we always say we want to be your partners as an FMO. We are partners, right? Like we don't make a dollar unless you make a dollar. We're not making any money until you're successful. And I think because of that lifestyle potential and that high income potential, it draws a lot of people into the industry who haven't mastered those life skills that it takes to be successful. And, we jokingly say we see a lot of last chance millionaires and things like that, same thing with realtors where people haven't ever cultivated the work ethic and some of these other things, or maybe they just haven't found the right opportunity or something they're passionate about, like Dan was saying, that really drives them, to be successful. So, our mission, or like our mission values, we say we always want to do what's right for the customer, no matter what the outcome is. And at Agent Boost, we have 3 customers. We have you as our agents. We have our carrier partners, the providers, and then we also have the beneficiaries. We sell directly to beneficiaries. So we use that same maxim or credo, do what's right for the agents, do what's right for our carrier partners, and do what's right for the beneficiaries. And if we have to put ourselves second, that's fine. Long term, we know that
we'll get ours.
That's gonna pay off by operating like that. And that's how you should be as an agent with your consumers as well. Is you should have that attitude of, hey, I'm always going to do what's right for this beneficiary, for this consumer. And if that means I'm passing up on a deal here or there, or I'm doing some work pro bono every once in a while, that's absolutely the right way that you should be doing it, right? So the other thing that we want, our other, mission is we want to create a culture of love, respect, camaraderie all across the country.
Yeah, and I'm going to jump in and even add to that. So one of the things we talk about internally is we always want to be growing and looking for new agent partners and new agencies, people to be doing business with. We've been obviously growing our sales numbers year over year very consistently. But the one thing that we won't do is we're not desperate for people, meaning that we've had agents and agencies approach us or come through our doors, and same thing going back to mission and what we're trying to accomplish. They're just so challenging to do business with. They're rude to our staff. They treat them crap. We don't need that. And there's been many times where we go, you know what, pass. Like we're really important. We value what we've built here, and having it be a good experience for not only our agents and our carrier partners and our staff, that if it's not a good fit, we're just, hey, it's not a good fit.
Yeah. And to that point as well, with our agents all across the country, one of the things that you and I really enjoy is it's great to work with people from all over the country, all walks of life, all political backgrounds, all ethnicities, every state, and work together with a common goal and really get to know people from all over the country. That's something that is super, motivating to me, is getting to know friends all over the country, travel to all these different markets.
Yep.
All these different cities that we're always in, know the country and, the diverse populations and how everybody thinks and operates, and really work towards a common goal.
You'll just see so many different go-to-market strategies and the different, ethnic communities and how they do the local marketing within their own tribes and their own, cultures. It's actually pretty cool when you go from state to state and you see that what does work for one agent with one subset of the population will not work for another. And it's kind of great to be exposed to all that. And then also, of course, be able to share best practices where, of course, we're never going to say, oh, hey, this person right across from town is doing this. But definitely we have some great takeaways that we can use to obviously help and empower other partners, 13 states away.
Yep. So that's our mission. Always do what's right for the consumer, and then treat each other with, culture and love. Our values are, Dan and I always say this: attitude, aptitude, and work ethic, right? And, we're both, we don't, you guys may be surprised, we don't have a Ivy League education. Neither Dan or I think we're both. Did you get your SLIC degree? Do you even have an associate's?
I dropped out. I was one class away. It was English writing, and I even know it's English 2010, and my ADD was too bad. I could not sit down and write the 30-page paper.
So I went up to you. I have an associate's degree from a community college. That's how
I had 30 extra credits that I didn't need from testing out of stuff.
Yeah,
but
that's how fancy of Ivy League education Dan and I have. But what we really do believe in, we had a father that was he's old school, blue collar, just a really incredible work ethic that we've adopted into, and so we really believe that with a good attitude and a little bit of aptitude and ability and a strong work ethic, you can be successful in this industry.
I 100% agree, and I'll take that all day long versus an agent who is highly educated but has poor habits, poor expectations. We see that, unfortunately, a lot. And I would take somebody fresh off the street that is hungry and willing to put in the work all day long.
Yeah, so. And to that point, I think that one of the things that I see currently that makes agents have a better chance of being successful is how hungry are you to be able to continue to learn? How much of this business are you wanting to actually dive into feet first, become an expert in, and really be able to add value to this industry, because that's really what the industry needs right now.
The other thing I would add, too, about the agents and our audience that we're talking to on a regular basis is, and I don't know if this is part of the presentation that you do every week, but it's the agents who are constantly flip-flopping their FMO. And look, to be clear, look, you've been with an FMO for 2 years or 3 years or 5 years, and you're like, hey, I need a change of scenery. Maybe I'm not getting the support that I used to. Something has changed in that relationship. There's some other FMO out there that can offer me unique opportunities. Great, totally understandable. But what we've seen a lot of is an agent going with one FMO for 3 months. They're barely past, or not even past the onboarding phase. And they're like, oh, I don't like something. I'm out. Different FMO, 2 FMOs within 1 year. Then they're to another FMO the next year, another FMO. And you go, after 3 or 4 years, you go, so you've had 5 FMOs in 4 years?
And they all suck?
Well, it's just, you're not even able to be established long enough to even be into their ecosystem and even get the right support. And some of those things take time. And so with those agents, I feel like they've done themselves the biggest disservice. And it may be that their FMO was crappy, but sometimes it's more that they're not even patient enough to stick around. And not only that, I tell agents this all the time too. 80 to 90% of your success is going to be dependent upon you and your personal efforts and what you're doing. That other 10 to 20% is going to come from that FMO partner with strategy or technology and services, and we'll get into all that. But really, at the end of the day, I've seen plenty of agents who are killing it, and they have terrible FMOs.
Yep.
And they're crushing it. They're crushing it despite their FMO, not because of it. And so the same thing, I've seen agents with a phenomenal FMO who I know personally who do a lot of support, and they can't even write 20 policies a year. So again, just keep that in mind.
We could sidetrack on that for a whole episode, and we have before. Our goals to wrap up, kind of like our elements of success here, our goals are we want to be the industry leader in tools, tech, training, and culture, right? And we'll go into that stuff. And then we also want to be a singular partner for you to be able to do business with. So we don't want you to have to, dip your toe with us and have to be aligned with 3 or 4 different FMOs. We want to have a nice, robust portfolio of products that we'll get into, where if you want to do Medicare and ACA and some life and final expense and annuities, that we have a good, tight package of
we got a home
customers.
For you.
Yeah, that you can do that with without having to be split between all those different different uplines. So then we, when we go do this pitch, we usually get into the state of the industry. And on this podcast today, I think we wanted to quickly side quest into the.
Dude, I don't even know if we have time. We got to step it up. But let's go through it really quick. The one thing that we do want to talk about is the Walmart booths right now and the Walmart opportunities. For all of you agents who are listening, I think historically working in a Walmart and having that booth throughout AEP. Look, I'm not, again, be cognizant that I'm not trying to diss on agents at all, but I always say that the Walmart agents are the Walmart booth opportunities for the agents who haven't planned. So if you haven't planned out structured like opportunities, invested into marketing, you don't really have a game plan. It's like, well, I guess I'll sit in a Walmart booth then, and at least I write some business. And so that's kind of been like a default that a lot of agents kind of fall back on or rely on. I'm personally more of a proactive planner of really trying to proactively plan out all my different initiatives and go execute them and be more proactive versus kind of reactive and not being able to control like my destiny or my outcome, right? So,
and your opinion and my opinion are based on experience, right?
Correct.
I think you've sat at a Walmart booth before. I certainly have worked at a Walmart booth. I've worked at a Kroger booth.
At some point, everybody has to earn their
stripes.
stripes.
Been there, done that, so speaking from experience.
Yeah, at some point they all do. So I think we want to talk really quickly about the Walmart opportunity. It's historically always been, a big talking point of opportunities with agents in the industry. And as you all who have been around for a lot of years, you've seen that evolve and change from being, Humana had that, locked in for years and years and years. We saw last year that change pretty significantly with how that was structured, where, again, Humana, got that nationwide contract, but then was able to kind of sell off or break off a piece of that contract to Integrity Marketing and their agencies, and then kind of sub that out and place that opportunity with some of those Integrity agents. It's looking even yet a little bit different this coming AEP. And it is still, for the record, Humana and that IFG affiliation that kind of has that contract. So the way it's shaken out is it's through IFG, who is a subsidiary or is owned by Humana. They actually have the national contract on the Humana stores, or excuse me, the Walmart stores. And so they are offering up, agreements to FMOs where you can sign and execute an agreement, and then we can obviously place our agents in those stores. So it's a great opportunity for agents. The only thing the financial terms this year are very unattractive, I think, for FMOs and agents. I think they're pretty aggressive from a financial standpoint.
Well, let's talk a minute about Walmart too, because we've talked about it for probably 3 or 4 years, maybe longer, that right. Walmart's always flirted with getting into the health insurance distribution space. And we've hypothesized in the past that they were just going to own it themselves. They've talked about hiring agents themselves. They've started Walmart Health before.
They tried it and failed with the health clinics.
It's not their big wheelhouse, right? But yet they know they have a prize pig over here. They know they have something valuable that they're trying to monetize as best they can.
And increase and maximize monetization on.
Yeah, right? and I still think that Walmart at some point down the road, I've even thought they were going to just purchase Humana outright. But, I do think that they make some sort of further jump more significantly into the health insurance distribution than this. But this is just one more step down the road. And so maybe we can talk a little bit about the broad terms and what makes it difficult for us on a...
Yeah, what makes it hard for us is, just so you all understand what's going to happen, is we're going to have to execute a contract with IFG and agree to the...
AKA Humana.
Correct, and agree to the contractual terms of each one of these stores. And you do have to kind of request stores, and there might be 2, 3, 4 agents who are all requesting the same store, and only one person's going to get it. So just know that's how it's almost like the same bid process. So you submit your bids. Some of the stores we're going to be able to get, some of them we're not going to be able to get. Another FMO partner is going to get that one instead of this one. Anyways, and when you're agreeing to it, what the contract looks like is it's going to be a $200 a month rental for each store. So, AEP, you can imagine it's going to be $600 for the 3 months of essentially retail rent space. And then you also, of course, have to log everything and report through Sunfire. So that's another kind of cumbersome thing, is you do have to work a minimum, 20 hours a week minimum in the store?
Yeah,
20, something like that. So you have to be in there for a minimum of 20 hours. You have to report your shifts. You have to make sure that they're being reported as sales events. You have to report numbers like contacts and appointments and sales. So there is a reporting aspect that the agent has to be required to do. That can kind of be, some of the Sunfire reporting has been a little messy last year. So that's one kind of pain point. And then obviously they have like a metric where, you also have to pay $100 per sale generated in the store for the first year, and then on Medicare Advantage, and then a $50 trail for life, essentially, for renewal of the policy. Okay. Then on ACA, if you sell an ACA, you also have to pay $23 for an ACA sell, and that $23 annual yearly renewal too, which, look, the ACA business right now, those margins are tight. It's hard to make a buck anyway. So, $23 per sale is, in my opinion, pretty steep.
Yeah.
And then PDP, $25 if you sell a PDP up front, and a $6 renewal forever on the PDP business. Again, tight margins on PDPs, not a whole lot of money to be made. And the question mark is, we still don't even know if all the PDPs are going to be commissionable. So another kind of caveat out there, in my opinion. And then lastly, if they want minimum results, because of course a lot of agents lie. They're going to go do a shift and be like, oh, I only sold 2 or only sold 3 because I don't want to pay the per app fee. Mm-hmm. Well, so they've now kind of instituted like a minimum threshold of 15 sales, to where if you report under 15, then they just make up that gap or difference in a penalty. So if somebody only reports 10 sales, then they say, hey, you didn't meet the minimum threshold. Here's a $500 penalty, and they assess that penalty. So that's kind of what it looks like. The heartburn that I have for it personally is, I understand trying to monetize and get like rev sharing or dollars out of the stores. Where I take issue is, again, going back to, is the fact that I, as an FMO, let's just say we have 100 agents that, request stores, we bid on, we get them. Well, we are the entity responsible to pay IFG. So then, they're going to calculate or tabulate all the sales. I have to pay that ongoing every single month here on and forever after. So now, because agents are in stores, I'm having to pay that, oversee applications. I'm sure there's going to be some audit process about active enrollments versus not active enrollments. And in perpetuity, 8-9 years down the road, we may still be paying IFG for enrollments that one of our agents did in 2025 in a Walmart store. Yeah, that administration is a heavy lift for a lot of years.
Correct. Yeah, that commissioned administration is going to be very difficult for a lot of these
and then I'm going to have to,
and uplines.
Yeah, and then I'm going to have to turn around and give a legal agreement to every single agent and talk about default and remedies. And, because we already know if we have 100 agents that want stores, at some point down the road, 10 or 20 agents are not going to be paying the fees, and we're going to be left holding the bag, or trying to chase down agents because they're not paying their portion of the applications or XYZ.
Yeah.
So
it just seems like it's a heavy lift, like we've said. A lot of administration, and in my opinion, there's easier ways to do business. But this component of the podcast is supposed to be on the state of the industry, so we just kind of jammed that in there. But this plays to the willingness or appetite for some agents to still do this, or FMOs, kind of plays into the larger ecosystem of where the industry's at right now, which it is difficult, and a lot of agents are having a hard time. Well, how do I write different policies? Or that just sounds, like you said, I can just show up there and I'm going to get some.
Well, it's just more goes back to agents don't understand like where are opportunities, because they're trying to find an opportunity to go write business, and especially because of compliance, it's been harder to do so on the Medicare side.
Yeah. So again, this is just kind of it seems like a little bit of a Frankenstein of a thing. I think a lot of agents are not necessarily happy with the direction that it's gone. I don't think FMOs are happy with the direction that it's gone. And I still think that, a year or two down the road, Walmart's going to find a way to fully maximize their opportunity with these annual enrollment and open enrollments and things like that.
And the last thing that we'll do to kind of wrap on the Walmart so we can kind of move forward is I always tell agents, again, going back to, I like being able to control my destiny, control the controllables as much as I possibly can. I don't like when I've seen an opportunity like that, change and fluctuate from year to year. And is this something I'm going to be able to do or not be able to do? I would rather go through the pain of investing the time and the money into a new opportunity and developing and procuring that, than just kind of crossing my fingers and hoping that opportunity is going to be around next year. I don't like that kind of element personally.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I signed up for a Kroger store for 22 shifts during an AEP about 10 years ago.
I remember
and
that.
I ended up having to work 22 4-hour shifts, and I wrote a total of four apps from that. I think I calculated it, and I for sure made less than minimum wage off of that. Yeah. And I did get a really funny CTM, one of my only complaints from the lady that wheeled up to me in the Jazzy. I'll have to tell that story at a different time. But anyway, guys, that's kind of, state of the industry. We're basically talking about the state of the industry every week on the podcast, and all these difficulties that agents are dealing with right now, because CMS beneficiaries need the best and the brightest into the industry. Right now, there's a couple of market circumstances and difficulties, and we have compliance difficulties, we have compensation difficulties, we have marketing challenges for agents, and so it makes it really hard if you're a new agent getting started in this industry to get going. And so everything that we do at Agent Boost is to try to help agents right now, make it through that time.
We're trying to solve the problems.
Correct.
And we have a very good view of what are the challenges that the agents are facing in the industry, and the more of them that we can alleviate or solve for them, the better off we're all going to be.
Absolutely. Right? So, we then kind of transition and we talk about, our product portfolio. And as I mentioned, we're big in the Medicare Advantage space. That's kind of been our bread and butter as we've grown up in the industry. And I really think that's important, because was so regulated, was so compliance heavy, that you had to get good at being effective in marketing and building distribution in an industry that had a lot of regulations and has a lot of oversight. And I feel like that's been good for us as a company, because when you sell easier products or market in an easier way, it's just an advantage.
Yeah, and to that point, we'll start talking about our product portfolio, because we do Medicare, we do ACA or individual health products, we do life and annuity products, and we also do ancillary complementary products for our agents, right? But going back into ACA, we made a really big jump. I mean, we kind of dabbled for about 2 years, but last year was a really big investment year for us into ACA. It went really well. And candidly, that line of business was easier for us to do simply because of, to your point, growing up in the Medicare space, all that heavy regulation. When we're talking to ACA carriers and saying all of our systems are SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3, they're all HIPAA compliant, they all meet high-tech specs, we do all this stuff, we record every call, we do, they're like, I think a lot of the people they've been doing business with aren't up to speed, and it's easy for us to be there because we've already been thriving in an environment that's very difficult.
Yeah.
So,
well, we'll go a little deeper on the ACA stuff, but on the Medicare side of things, we do have national contracts with all the who's who, all the big national players, right? And then we have a lot of the local regionals in some of the markets as well. But we have not taken a contract with every broker or every insurer out there, every small regional carrier, because there's only so many mouths we can feed, and so we want to be good partners and really deliver for our partners. But I think you'd be, our portfolio of national carriers is very robust. Yeah. To that point as well, with the, I just am noticing I'm saying to that point a lot. One of those things you watch back and gotta.
That's why I never listen to myself.
Gotta correct. So with that ACA, I'll use a different transitional phrase. ACA, we have a lot of. What makes us different, I feel like, is you've usually seen an FMO big on the Medicare side of things, but then have nothing on the ACA side of things. And as there's been this this massive gold rush of carriers getting into ACA over the past 12 months.
And distributors.
Yeah, and you're starting to see more people, more FMOs trying to leverage and get those contracts. But we already have a lot of those important top-level ACA contracts. So what makes us unique at Agent Boost is I feel like we've got fantastic national relationships on the Medicare side of things and on the ACA side of things.
And what's different is on the ACA side, typically, I mean, you have to think the Medicare Advantage space is very sophisticated now. It's been around for 20 years, so you've gone through 2 decades of sophistication and iterations and compliance. ACA, it's younger. It's not been around as long. And so a lot of the carriers, their systems aren't as advanced. A lot of them don't have multiple payment tiers and levels. Everything's, I don't want to say like fly by the seat of your pants, but it's not as dialed in as Medicare. And so we are very accustomed to working with them and understanding that and having very sophisticated internal payment systems, technology, being able to work with those ACA carriers. Even their onboarding process is a little bit more challenging sometimes, but we're very comfortable with all of that. And I think there's other people getting into the space who are just going through a lot of growing pains trying to figure that out.
Yeah, and as Dan was saying, there's a lot of the industry's a little more juvenile in that it hasn't become as sophisticated and large, and that's also what's led to a lot of the fraud and bad players and bad actors. You don't have the creme de la creme of these FMOs and big national carriers that have been the big players there. You have, I don't want to say everybody's been a bad actor, because that's certainly not true, but it hasn't been in the spotlight, right? A lot of these entities, they haven't had the same checks and balances.
They've had like B players or C players and smaller organizations that don't even have a compliance officer or don't even have systems in place to oversee, correct selling practices. And so I think that is something that has obviously become to the forefront over the last year. And we're starting to see a lot of those changes taking place.
Correct.
And I've even mentioned on the podcast, we've been talking about how, Medicare and ACA, they're both individual products. It's just, here's people 65 and older and disabled, and here's, but it's coming. It's going to meet in the middle. And what we thought would be years, we've seen like this huge escalation, or I guess I would say it's moved a lot quicker than we thought. Yep. And in 6 months, it's already started to move closer to center. So.
Correct. Yeah, so we feel like we're great partners, Medicare, ACA, life and annuities as well. So, we...
hey, keep watching the market, y'all, because, as things continue to change, there's a lot of opportunities for annuity products. So.
Yeah, and again, I think we have a really good portfolio of carriers. We don't have 1 million different every fly-by-night small insurer and life carrier out there, but we have a very good, robust portfolio of carriers there with good, trusted companies, and we definitely feel like they're sufficient to do a good job for all of your consumers.
Yeah, and ancillary, last thing before we move on to our next, we gotta speed it up, or else we're not going to make time here on this podcast. But the last thing on ancillary is we try to find very good complementary products with a good name. And again, we always look at, when we're shopping carriers, is it a good product to sell to the consumer? Am I going to feel proud to offer this? Is it a good experience for the agent, like portal technology? Is it a good commission for the agent? And then lastly, same with us. I mean, is it a good experience for us? Do they have technology? Do they have portals? How do they pay? can we even make money on these ancillaries? I mean, we found people selling, dental products very comparable to others, and one pays the agent like seriously like a $13 commission or $10, and there's other complementary products that are very reputable and good for the consumer that pay them a $65 commission. And so those are always things that we're considering when we're evaluating ancillary products and carrier contracts as well. So just know there's a lot that goes into vetting out our portfolio, our products, and what we're offering.
Yeah, and we're always looking at adding and removing people where it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So moving on, the other thing that we feel like we have an advantage over is lead generation.
Hey, whenever you talk to an agent who is onboarding, what do they always ask?
Do I get leads? How do I get leads? Where do I get leads? Do I get free leads? Do I get this leads? Leads. Leads are the gas that fuel the engine, that move the industry, right? And so, when we talk about leads, we try to do it in two ways. We feel like we're great at helping agents do grassroots. If you want to be a local market expert, if you want to do provider marketing, if you want to go do those things.
If you want to work anything local market, he's talking food pantries, food banks, funeral homes, local tax CPAs, all that stuff. We've done it. We've been there, done it. We can help you.
We've done it. We've executed it ourselves. That's how we grew our business.
Provider
Dan and
marketing,
I did, hundreds of events at the Golden Corrals and restaurants, and we've paid for steaks and pitched, and we've done libraries, and we've done educational events, and we've done everything.
Lunch and learns with docs. I teach them about SGR rates and versus are you in depending on their risk situation, are they in like a MIPS pool? Are they on a partial risk contract? Are they full risk with capitation? I mean, we've done all that.
Executed it all. Nobody knows it better than us, right? Now, I will also say there's a lot, the current state of the industry, because so many people get into it via the virtual field or the telephonic or the e-brokers. There's not a big appetite right now these days for people to go out, and develop a local market. But I think that if you can do that as an agent, there's a massive resurgence these days, because post-COVID, a lot of those institutional relationships that people had, or there was a lot of people that stopped meeting virtually. A lot of those connections were lost. If an agent wants to go out with, if you have got no money, right? If you have no money, we say you either have time or money to spend. And if you're a new agent trying to get there, I would certainly go around with $0 to spend of my marketing budget and try to develop a lot of these relationships with strategy. And we could go in, when we do go in on detail on this with our trainings. But I think there's a massive opportunity out there right now that I still don't see a lot of agents stepping into and taking advantage of, as far as like the grassroots marketing.
Yep. So to Mike's point, I think we always classify leads as either, you can self-generate leads, but they don't grow on trees. Either we can provide them to people, which we'll talk about in a minute. They can purchase leads, or they can go generate their own leads.
Yes.
So those are the different kind of distinctions that we make with leads.
Yep, absolutely. And then there's paid leads, right? There's different lead vendors. One of the things where I like to say that we are different, we do have a marketing staff here. We are trying to eat our own dog food, meaning we're trying to create our own leads. We're trying to create our own compliant, consumer-generated leads at a good ROI that we can also sell and distribute out to our own agents.
Right.
And the lead game's really hard this year, guys. And we're working at doing a good job of that. And then we also have other trusted partners that we can certainly refer you to for all those lines of business. So kind of a blend of all of those things.
Yeah,
when it
and
comes to
the
leads.
one thing that we did, do we want to talk about our DTC at this point?
We can talk about that at the end. But
Okay.
but
So to that point,
no, just go in on it. Yeah.
I mean, like we saw this like years ago, and how important it is, and again going back to quality of leads, and we have some subsidiary brands that we've owned and we've actually invested to over the years. And so we actually, I own over 200 different URLs, and many of the URLs we have out there are actually consumer facing. They're generating leads, and we're doing it in a very compliant way where we can control the web forms and the message, and we're not buying crap from crap lead vendors. And we've built flagship brands, Medicare Advocates, which is trademarked, and yes, there's people out there.
But Dan, how can you have the name Medicare in that? That's not compliant.
Right. It is compliant. So Medicare Advocates help
a non-government entity. Wink.
Yep. It's Health Plan Advocates. Those are both our DTC brands where, we're very compliantly going to market and generating a lot of those leads. And to Mike's point, also working with different vendors and partners. And just to kind of give people an idea with what we're generating and also dealing with partners, there's a heavy scrutiny process that goes through with our compliance officers where they'll look at what is the URL, what is the site, what was the actual content, what was the intent of the message, what does the web form look like. And a lot of times with vendors, we have to customize those forms in the customer journey to make sure that they're compliant. So we're doing that so that if agents are getting leads through us, they don't have to worry that they're not going to be compliant or they're going to get slapped on the wrist. And so at any given time, between our call center, our field, our agent partners, we have anywhere from 500,000 leads in our system to 1 million plus, depending on the time of the year and the demand and our staffing. So again, we have anywhere from about 500,000 to over 1 million leads at any given time.
Yeah, and just to go in a little bit deeper so we don't cover it later, but with our brands, Medicare Advocates, I think it has over 2,000 five-star reviews on Google. You can align with us in a way where we'll allow you to use that brand as well. It's like Dan said, licensed, trademarked. It has great brand equity. The name is fantastic. And same thing on the health plan advocate side. Yep. We've used that more generically and on the ACA side of things too, but they sound very soft sales-wise to the consumer. They're designed and branded to look like a soft sell, a soft approach, an advocacy thing to the consumers.
Because at the end of the day, that's how we train and teach agents is you should be a problem solver.
Correct.
And advocate for them and be helping them and not just twisting and breaking their arm into a plan.
Correct. So yeah, just, those are available there. You can look up those. I mean, those are all searchable and Googleable as well. And then I think that kind of is really all I wanted to go in on the lead side of things. So we realize that's probably one of your biggest challenges as an agent.
I guess to wrap, just so Mike knows, we're going to go into different agent types in a minute and talk about it. But yes, we give agents certain leads that are absolutely free that we actually pay for and we give to people for free. And then we also have, real-time leads, direct mail leads, web leads, and we also have like inbound phone calls, that you can buy inbound phone calls as well.
Yeah. So the next thing that we feel like differentiates us is our training. And I at this point in the presentation, I always talk in depth about, wow, I wish I would have grown up in this current state of the industry where you could Google anything, where there was millions of websites and YouTube videos and instructional videos, and the information was at scale. But even when we got into the business 2007, 2008-ish, there wasn't a lot of good, accurate information available online. It wasn't information I wasn't quite at scale online as it is now. And so I get really a little bit annoyed when agents want help with the real basic stuff where it's like, I mean, my friend, you got an insurance license. You had to pass your AHIP if you do Medicare. You had to get or your FFM certs if you're doing ACA. You have annual certifications. All these carriers do trainings. Right. There's millions of basic YouTube videos and our competitors and our friends out in the industry putting out good content. You can learn the basics very easy.
You can Google it and get 80-90% of what you need.
For example, you can search at any given time what the Medicare Part B premium is for any given year. That stuff's very easy. What we like...
Or you can Google about a late enrollment penalty, and you can learn about that kind of stuff. What we try to spend more of our time focusing and training on are fundamentals that we see are gaps in knowledge that agents don't have, and that is even how to manage their cash flow of their commissions with cycles in the business, how to sales skills, right? Things that they need to work on as far as how do you blend in compliance and still be a salesperson, like you're open, you're close, what can and can't you do? We're trying to spend our time, when we feel like we have that valuable time and attention to the brokers, that's what we would prefer to spend our time on.
Correct. Right? And really, how do you be successful? Right now, it's August 2024. What does an agent need to know and do to be successful right now? And what do you need to be aware of coming down the pipeline? How can you be reactive? How can you be that next generation of agent? That's really what we like to focus our training on, because one of the good things that came out of COVID was there's a million trainings, all the broker managers in the national. You guys probably get hit up the same, amount of times as we do. There's a million bazillion trainings in Zoom all the time, right? That stuff's very accessible. We want to give you the great, bread and butter, the tactical stuff that you can use to be successful right now.
Yep.
And we do that two ways, right? We do that virtually. And then one of the other things that I think we do that makes us unique is we have a boot camp that we do every year.
In person.
And we rotate that between our Tampa headquarters and our Salt Lake headquarters here.
And they're usually every 6 to 8 weeks.
Correct. And we will actually pay for you to come out if you've written only 10 pieces of business. So like 10 enrollments.
So what Mike's saying is actually,
Is it 12 or 15? It's around there. It's somewhere.
I have not done any recruiting pitches in a long time, but
somewhere between 10 and 15. I should know. I'm the one that makes it up.
So basically what it is, if you're a newer agent and you've already found a way to write some business, we'll fly you out, on our dime to do more training. But what we've also offered,
put you up in a hotel.
Yeah, and spend a couple days and really dial in and know systems and staff and, give you more training and support in person. But the other thing we started doing this year too is just opening it up to everybody, because I said, look, this is what we do. Like as an FMO, that's what we like. So we also just started offering up and saying, hey, if you want to come and learn, just if you're not affiliated with us or tied to us as your FMO, that's okay. Come out and we'll still train you. And by the way, we don't charge anybody for that.
Yeah. So just to go a little deeper on that, usually if you come out to our Utah location or Tampa, like Dan's saying, you don't even have to be one of our agents. If anybody out there wants to come, you can look up these events. They're on our website under the events tab. You can register for them and come out. These are what I'll say our competitors charge you for, come pay $500 to $2,000 to learn from, Ricky Bobby that writes these amount of apps.
Right.
This is better content and better information that we're doing for free, and we'll do it for all of our agents. Or if you just want to get a preview of, what Agent Boost is like, we'll do that for you. We'll let you come. We're not gonna, put you do the timeshare salesman thing where we take you over to the other room and Dan comes in and closes you to work with us after. We just would like to meet you, and if you get some value out of our training, great, right? And we do rotate that every month between Utah and Tampa, and usually myself does a lot of the content or Dan will do a lot of it. So, I feel like you get some pretty good instruction, and our agents, there's a very, very high correlation of the agents who have come out and done that and participated in that and their success, the ones that are actually writing business. And the other thing that we didn't talk about to that was if you want to just pay for that yourself, and, pay for your own flights, pay for your own hotel and come out, once you have written that 12 or 15 pieces of business or 10, I can't remember what it is. I'll get you the exact number.
Did you account for inflation? No, I'm just kidding.
15.
I'm kidding.
15. We'll actually will reimburse you $1,000.
Correct. We do
so that. We'll ETF that to you to reimburse that as a way to get like a free preview of what Agent Boost is all about, right?
What it really comes down to is we feel like we want to invest time and money into our agents, and ultimately the byproduct is going to be that they write a lot of business, and that's how we monetize it. We don't charge the agent up front. So,
yeah. So training, that's how we focus our training.
Hey, you got to get at the end of the sales pitch in a few minutes, Mike.
I was just thinking in my mind, we're gonna have to do part 2, or Matt's gonna have some serious editing to do because anyway, we'll kind of get into tech next, right? Like, so when we talk about tech, one of the things that Dan and I did early on was about 2018-19, we started seeing that Medicare consumers even were changing, right?
Text.
And our parents, they'd all been in the workplace using computers, and the industry was still kind of treating them like these silly old curmudgeons that couldn't do anything, that the only way to go out was to whisper to their bullhorn in their ear, and show them a paper application and sign up at their kitchen table. And we really started seeing the consumer shifting and also the shopping behaviors shifting too. Like not everybody wanted to have an agent come out and sit with them at the kitchen table or make this big presentation out of it, right? So we started investing heavily into technology. And this was, everybody now has a compliant digital enrollment tool, But then they were very new, and only some of the carriers had these tools.
And so, some of the really big legacy telebrokers.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah, and it was cost effective. It was expensive, or wasn't cost effective. And so Dan and I actually found the Go High Level CRM platform very, very early. And if you're not familiar with it, it's a really good CRM. We provide it to all of our agents for free. I'm looking in the camera, Matt. We're going to cut up a clip of this. We provide this for free. A lot of you agents out there, you're paying somebody else for this platform. And a lot of I'll even call them friends in the industry, are monetizing this, and they're making more money off of charging you for this than they are off of you writing policies.
Correct.
We provide it to you for free. And not only that,
we were one of the first to open it up with their API key and start custom deving it and making it HIPAA compliant. And even before they added inbound call features, we had dev'd in a lot of other features that they're now starting to add.
Correct. So I'll just tell you, we were the ones that proliferated that across the Medicare insurance industry. We were the first to offer that, and that was a huge value prop for recruiting for us for the past 6 years. But if you're paying for it, you don't have to. That's a free value prop. We pay for the back end usage. We pay for the setup. And the other thing,
and the other part of it that we do that's different is it's fully supported, meaning
correct,
that we literally have a staff member on staff full-time with a tech background who helps brokers and agencies to customize their pipelines, change their views, add in new fields, do bulk uploads for them. So if you have a book of business with some other CRM or a spreadsheet, he helps to import their book of business, walk them through extra training, answer phone calls, do monthly trainings. And so that's been our biggest thing too, is a lot of competitors out there have technology. Some of them charge for it, some of them don't, but very few of them actually really support and help the agent get proficient with using it.
Correct.
And you have like a lifeline that you can actually call and be like, hey, help me with this.
And our tech team is better. I'll tell you, is better than even a lot of their devs, because our tech team's been using this particular CRM, Go High Level. We call it Rocket CRM. So if you get, if you hear that, and our custom build of it, he's been working with their devs since the very beginning. In fact, Dan and I initially talked to the founders. We'd even looked at investing in it. So that's how long we've been using that platform for. And it's really helped make a difference in our business with managing the book of business, keeping everything straight and organized. And yes, guys, we've looked at all the expensive CRMs like the Salesforce. We've looked at moving to these, $1 million a year iterations. And don't get me wrong, we still spend a lot of money, multiple six figures, on deploying this for all of our agents.
And the other thing that I would mention is we spend at least $250,000 a year on it, if not $500,000 on it. It depends, because the other thing that we do is there's a plugin, that communication that you use in the CRM to send out automations and drip campaigns and text message and everything else. We actually pay that. We're literally like paying your AT&T bill, where we actually are paying that. So
that's way more expensive than the actual CRM.
It is, and we actually fit the bill for all of that, and that's one thing that people don't realize.
Well, and a lot of some of the agents that may hear this, they know that because they get that bill passed on to them in addition to paying the monthly subscription fee for them. So a lot of you may be able to save significant money there. So moving on from that CRM, but I just, we've been a little bit bad as we let some of the market kind of dictate that platform in particular. And we've always given it to our agents for free. And it's become this big revenue center for a lot of agencies, and people make more money off of selling that to agents than they do actually being an FMO.
Do we want to talk about Sunfire?
Yeah.
Real quick.
Yeah. Let's talk about Sunfire. So right at the same time, I believe we were the third FMO to sign up with Sunfire back in the day. And we were the little engine that could way back then. And we weren't, mostly it was a call center.
Internal use case, right?
Yes, build. And we found it because we wanted to do two-factor authentications, two-factor enrollments via text.
Correct.
And they were very early on in that.
And we wanted it especially because of the duals, and how often we were talking to duals who didn't have a computer and didn't have an email. And I'm not trying to poo-poo on other competitors in the space, but back when e-apps were emerging, it was a only via email. And you're like, these people don't have an inbox that they're, but they all have Obama phones, and so we were really looking at it for our DSNP members,
Yeah. And so again, we became an early adopter there. And at that time we signed up for an expensive SaaS software. And if you guys don't know, your ultimate, whoever's the ultimate upliner on Sunfire pays that bill, and it's a hefty bill. You pay an annual tech usage fee, a user agreement, and then you pay a per app submission fee. So your FMO is paying for that if you don't pay for Sunfire, and we've been paying for that long since.
We've never charged an agent.
Never charged an agent for it, and that was a hefty bill and a hefty tech price tag that we paid for early on, that we've always been doing that. And then of course they did such a good job, and they've really grown, and now they're, they've had an over $1 billion valuation. We've talked with those guys on the podcast, and we just had Ben Miller on from Sunfire. We have a very great relationship with Sunfire, but that's because, we've been with them, using them, and we've been a good partner of theirs for 6 years plus. And so we still provide that with all of our platform, all of our carriers. And just to, again, since we're, glazing ourselves, as the kids would say,
That's true.
We've always had a good relationship with those guys. We're currently testing some iterations and builds with them and carriers. We're beta testing stuff. We're part of their use case.
Don't say too much.
Well, that's I kept it pretty generic, right?
All right. Yeah.
Maybe I don't know. We have to strike that out, but maybe not. But we're always testing stuff with those guys. We have a great relationship with them internally. We're able to get their people out here talking to us, and that's why, is because, and I think that matters when you talk about what type of sway an entity and being with an organization that.
Well, but part of it too, just so that agents understand, is because we have there's no way we're going to get to everything in one episode. This is going to have to be two, because we run call center, which if call center environment is very different from being a field FMO. And so even within Sunfire, there's great reporting features and functionality that we get. Our daily reports that we're getting from them on application submitted, application status, what got rejected, where our RFIs are. We get information from Sunfire on, did the agent enter in, PCP on enrollments, whether it's HMO or PPO? Did the agent use BEQ utilization? So we're able to rank and score quality of applications. Did they add meds? And so there's so much more that we're getting out of that data and doing things with that data that field agents probably don't realize. We're able to not only have a great, efficient way to submit applications and make the experience great for agents and consumers, but then we're also able to correct problems like agents who are doing low quality enrollments, maybe not utilizing it, not managing their clients well with it. There's a lot more that we're able to do with that Sunfire data that maybe traditional FMOs aren't necessarily leveraging.
Yep. And we've been able to help facilitate getting new carriers onto that platform as well. So now they're on there. So yeah, it's a great platform that we use.
Did we, while we're on this platform too, do we want to mention ACA?
Yeah, let's talk about Health Sherpa real quick, and then we can talk about what we want to do for
phase 2 on episode.
So same thing, Health Sherpa is essentially the Sunfire equivalent of on the ACA side of things. And we have a really good relationship with Health Sherpa as well. In fact, give you a little preview if you hear this before. Adam Van Fossen from Health Sherpa is going to be out here next week, and we're going to have an in-depth ACA podcast with him about all the chaos and things going on with the AOR and the changes and stuff like that. But we have a great relationship with those guys, and because of that, they thought that we were a pretty upright, good entity, and we've built an EDE integration with those guys. And maybe Dan, you can talk a little bit about what that means. And we don't ultimately know long-term.
And it depends on CMS and where they go with things, because they're kind of in an identity crisis right now of trying to figure out how much they want to pull back and restrict enrollments and access to enrollments right now because of all the fraud. So kind of TBD on some things, but in essence, we've gone through a very heavy level of audit scrutiny on everything from data security to SOPs that we have in place here as a company, and did a full audit. It took about 7 months to go through that, but we'll really have access to real-time data from the marketplace with the ED integration, which is really valuable. And I'm sure you can talk about it with Adam next week, talking about what that will look like. But that's the biggest component to it. But one of the biggest value adds of Health Sherpa that I want to talk about is also the fact that we have a lot of mid-sized, larger agencies and groups, and even agents who do business with us on the ACA, and we can actually be added into, or they can be added into our portal with Health Sherpa, and it allows us to actually function and help them resolve issues, see their applications, see why things are getting pended, help and support our downline agencies. And that's been one of the biggest, because Health Sherpa, a lot of people out there listening and being like, yeah, who cares? I can get Health Sherpa. But when you do business with us and align your login or your access through us, we provide a whole lot more hands-on support in helping and training agents and agencies.
Correct. And again, we have a great relationship with them. Their team's awesome. We test and dog food some stuff. We just had their team out here shooting pictures in our office because
and to give you an idea too, like we have agents who are like, well, I submitted like 25 enrollments last month and only 13 went through. And our staff is literally going through their applications being like, hey, these ones were rejected because of this SCP that you didn't use in a valid way. Here's how you need to fix it, and you need to redo it this way and then resubmit. Hey, this application got pended because you didn't have a binder payment. You need to follow up with that person and collect the binder. And so those are the kind of real world hands-on, those are the support mechanisms that we're doing that I think a lot of agents and agencies out there are not getting that support, and they're just trying to figure it out on their own.
Yeah, correct. So, we try to be very tech focused with our stack and what we're able to help agents with. And it's all goes in alignment with what we said before, which is we want to be the agency that agents can look forward to do business for the future. And we're always we have a tech team here internally where we're always trying to build and dev out our own stuff and vet out what's the latest, greatest that can ultimately help you as the agents, help more consumers, be more efficient, make more money.
Yep, I agree. And honestly, I think we, when we were trying to talk about this episode and wrap and do it in an efficient way, we actually got through half of our slide deck, maybe? Half, maybe.
So, moving on from there, from tech, one of the things we highlight is compliance, and that sounds like a weird thing to use as an advantage. But we have two, not just one, but two really amazing compliance officers with incredible industry experience. Maybe you could speak.
And Heather Woody was our compliance officer for years, and she actually spent time at ClearLink, which is a local, call center. They're a national call center, but I say local because they're in our backyard here in Utah. And she was there for a while, and before that, she was at eHealth for a number of years. And so, coming from being able to sell on the phone and going through working at those organizations, she had a strong background in compliance. I can also brag, and I'll even share that, we just got through even our Humana scorecard. We just went through, we do an annual review with a lot of partners. And, out of all the enrollments that we did, I think we had eight complaints where all of our agents nationwide for sales. And I think 2 were founded.
And that's out of thousands and
thousands of sales.
Not
seriously,
out of 100 sales.
We had 8 CTMs, and 2 of them were founded, period, out of all of our agents nationwide. So just to kind of give you an idea, we have phenomenal compliance in that that was Heather's background. She's transitioned over into helping very strategically on the ACA side, and we brought in Sarah, who's done a great job in compliance, newer to Medicare, but she had a very strong background with FTC and SEC, because she was working with a financial firm. And so going from SEC compliance and FTC and all that, Medicare is actually fairly light compared to what she was dealing with before. So she's really got a great grasp in just 3 to 4 months of being in that role now. So we really have very good people to rely on. And compliance, like I said, is not a sexy thing. We talk about all the leads are sexy and commissions and all these other things. Compliance, definitely not a sexy thing to talk about. But as we're seeing the industry evolve and change, sophisticated agents are starting to understand that they really do need to be partnered with somebody who can help them with their with their marketing, their advertising, what they can and can't do. And I mean, even look on the ACA side, we've seen CMS now finally starting to term hundreds of NPNs and brokers. And so again, now more than ever, you need somebody on your side who really does understand compliance. And we take the approach of telling agents of saying, I understand what you're trying to do from a sales perspective. This is what you're trying to accomplish. You can't do, so we try to tell people it's not a no, it's a do this instead. So rather than doing it this non-compliant way, you can still achieve what you want, change it, do this, do that, you're going to be all right. And that's what the kind of the mantra that we try to kind of embrace as a sales organization.
Yeah, and ultimately the way we train and talk to agents is when you sell in a compliant way, it ingratiates and builds trust with the consumer, right? And that's what a lot of people struggle with, and that's what, our compliance team helps with. And then, ultimately you want to do business with an entity that is not going to get shut down for doing stuff some, shady way.
Either that, or that they tell you one thing and then you go and execute, and then you are the one who ends up on the hook.
Yeah, correct.
And they wash their hands of it and go, I don't know why the agent did that. We didn't tell him to do that. We just didn't want to be in the hot seat.
Yeah, so we have a very robust, security, data security, compliance, and that's one of the things that, when you're operating at a national level that the carriers really care about, to make sure that you're checking all those boxes as a good, legitimate FMO.
Yeah, and to kind of give just the casual listener an idea, with our compliance, there's these things you can look up. Again, SOC 1, SOC 2 compliance, SOC 3 compliance, which we do. Then you have your HIPAA compliance, and you have your high-tech compliance. And then we're to the point where we even have like MDM, they call it, like mobile device management, where here we can literally see every PC like in our Tampa office and every rep, and at any moment we could flip a switch, completely lock them out of their systems, do whatever. We have that capability with all of our compliance in our systems. So there's kind of a lot there.
Yeah, absolutely. Next category that we go over is support, right? And support, one of the things that we do that's unique is we try to place every agent with us with a single point of contact. And we call them either our agent success managers or a team lead.
Depending on the agent.
Yeah, and what they are, there's somebody that you can go to in the company that has experience in this industry that can get you plugged into the resources within Agent Boost, whether you need help with leads or training or compliance. They're your person. They're your account rep.
They're quarterbacking everything that you.
Yeah, and they can also help you with sales because all of them currently have sold. They've sold Medicare, they're selling ACA, or if they don't
have a license.
Yeah, they can get you that help very, very quickly. And so we think it's important that you don't call into your FMO or some 800 number and talk to a different person every time. We like to give you that direct support, that direct access. Now, I always tell people, they're not your babysitter, they're not your boss. You're not their boss. They're there to help you have the best chance of success as an agent, and that's why we call them the agent success managers. So we offer that. The other thing that I think we do that's really unique is we have some really robust Slack channels. If you haven't ever used the software Slack, it's a group communication tool. And
one thing that I'm going to add, many people listening, they may be in Facebook group forums. Mm-hmm. That's one thing that I can actually say, like, we made a mistake on, in that we have these internal Slack channels that are a big thriving community with sophisticated agents who are asking questions and immediately getting answers and from other experienced agents. We built that all internally versus making that be external. And that was actually one thing that I would say we did that was a mistake.
Correct. Yeah, we were slow to the development of like a Facebook group or a forum. There's a couple of them out there that we participate in that they do a really good job. But what I will say the difference is, and I'll just call it. I mean, I think people can probably tell this, but the real good stuff, the real bread and butter, the real training, the real help doesn't happen in those Facebook groups. I mean, a lot of people still hold their best stuff back, and if we could extrapolate what we have going on our Slack channels, the true community of celebrating each other's wins, answering questions, helping people actually be more productive and sell, those groups would be the best out there for sure. And so they are gate kept, right? They're only available to our agents. And the other thing that we do with that makes us unique is we are also in those Slack channels as well. So everybody from the agent boost, staff and corporate staff member, we're watching the Slack channels. We're managing and maintaining those. People can honestly Slack us directly. And we probably do more and communicate more in that than we even do via like email and things like that.
And LinkedIn and all that, yes.
Just because it's efficient for the agents, and we'll see something periodically where an agent asks for help or needs something in a certain situation, and our contracting team can hop in right there and help them out directly with what they need. So
hey, lastly, remember, we got to wrap in 20 minutes if we want to capture all this on our memory cards. So.
Yeah, well, to Dan's point, we did miss on at least the public exposure aspect and the helping people publicly, and we're still trying to grow that. We do have a Facebook group that's getting better. It's in the link in this. If you're watching on YouTube, you can check it, find it there. So check that out. But really,
but also understand that, like to Mike's point, you're going to get 70% of the things in that Facebook group, but there is another element or another, we'll just call it 30%, that is kind of gate kept in our Slack channels.
Yeah, I mean, everybody wants to keep, a little bit of the secret sauce to themselves, but I think that's where you're going to get it is once you're actually in the ecosystem. Moving on, we'd like to highlight that we have 2 headquarters, essentially. We have a large facility here in Salt Lake, and I think we have a very large staff and a nice building where we host trainings. We have an auditorium here that I think has 150-person capacity with the ability to broadcast town hall all over the country.
Yep.
We've invested significantly into growing our Salt Lake headquarters. We're here in the area called Silicon Slopes, or Silicon Slopes if you're not from Utah. And that's really the tech hub of growing infrastructure and a growing industry here in Salt Lake City. And we've chose this area because I think it's the fastest growing economic county in the country, which just so happens, it's where we're here from. There's a great talent pool here as well. And so we have a headquarters here that we're really proud of. And we opened one in Tampa as well that is very large as well. I think has room for 80 to 100 staff members.
Idea, like our office here, I just know because I have to do all the lease agreements and pay it and everything, but it's like our floor, it's 25,000 square feet, and then we have another 25,000 square feet of common area in the building, and then Tampa, we have another 16,000 square feet, and we also have a Mesquite store in Nevada.
Yeah.
It's consumer facing.
And we opened the Tampa location, for field agents to come work at, to meet people at, to grow our virtual teams and our direct teams that we have there as well. But
more bilinguals too. Different
correct.
Time zones, East Coast first,
So to kind of connect the countries. Yep.
Yeah, Eastern time zone and people there, and more bilinguals. And so it just allowed us to better serve the Medicare beneficiaries, especially the bilinguals in a lot of those states, and it allowed us to be a better partner for a lot of our carriers.
Yeah, and strategically, if you didn't know, Utah has many, many call centers here. There's all the top e-brokers, the eHealth, GoHealth, ClearLink, eTelequote. They all have offices here in Salt Lake, and a lot of them also have offices in Tampa. So they're 2 areas where the e-broker community has been very big, and the sales community in general. And so we just felt like really good talent pool. Okay. So, events, you can kind of take this, you're prodding me along, so you can talk about as little as you want about that.
Live events we think are valuable. Obviously, sneak preview, we will be doing, probably a bigger, broader live event next year, but we've always done it. AEP kickoffs. We like doing live events because we feel that there's an element of the business that you can achieve by building relationships, actually shaking hands, giving people hugs, building that relationship. We like that side of the business, at the end of the day. So we're going to continue to do live events, not only here in Salt Lake and in Tampa, but in other states and marketplaces. And again, everything from renting out movie theaters to different, social events that we're doing with our brokers. And we'll be having some larger agent events and opportunities for people to attend the future.
Yep, we always usually do an annual enrollment kickoff.
I feel like back we were doing these events, like big ones, and some of you listening to it are like, oh yeah, I remember that. I was there. We started doing these big live events back in 2016.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've been doing live events for brokers for almost 10 years. And it turned into this thing where now everybody does them. Everybody does a kickoff. Everybody does this conference or that conference or this summit or that whatever. We've been doing them for like 10 years. And I feel like a lot of the people in the distributor space just started doing them about 4 or 5 years ago.
Yep.
You know, but now there's just a bajillion live in-person events to attend.
Yep. One of the other things that we do that I feel like makes us a little bit different is here in Utah, at least, there's a very big sales culture, right? Door to door. There's a lot of the proliferation of all the door-to-door salespeople come out, and you got to compete on success and culture and incentives and things like that. And so we really do a good job. I feel like we have some great ongoing incentives for agents. Now, keep in mind, just for all of you note takers out there, we're always following the CMS compensation rules. We're not violating those in any way, shape, or form. Any awards or incentives or things like that, we've always built in to follow those rules and regulations.
Depending on the agent type.
Correct, yeah, depending on the agent type. We do concert series. We've got a VIP suite out here that we invest significantly into, and we've got a premium booth where we take agents and partners from all over the country to some pretty high-end concerts.
Club seats for the hockey game.
Yep, club seats for hockey. We do an event every quarter. It's a reward dinner. We call it King and Queen's Court. We do that fulfill it out of our Tampa and Utah locations, where we take them to a high-end dinner. I'm actually doing it tonight, so I get to eat good tonight for sure.
There you go.
So things like that we really feel.
You're not eating good in the neighborhood at Applebee's?
Pass on Applebee's. We've had to kind of tune it down a little bit, but it's still great, and the agents love it. And then maybe, if you want to talk a little bit about, in the past, we've always been able to do some producers trips or.
Yep, absolutely. We absolutely love going on trips. Some of our best memories have been going on these, leadership or incentive trips, depending on the year and what we're doing. But being able to spend 3 to 5 days with your agent partners, meet their spouses, go deeper, has been one of the most kind of rewarding and fulfilling experiences we've done. So we really like the trips. We don't have one scheduled at the moment because earlier this year when we were planning things out, there was a lot of uncertainty, not only just with CMS regulations, but monetarily with compensation rules. There was a lot of question marks. So we didn't schedule one, but certainly it seems like things are starting to solidify from all the chaos this year. And when things finalize and land, I think we will be putting together another upcoming producer trip. And these have been, to Hawaii. We've done one to Kauai. We did one to Maui. We've done one to Big Island this last year. I mean, it was great.
So Hawaii 3 years in a row. Boo-hoo.
It's it's been a lot of fun. So we're looking at some other locations, but it's not like, hey, we, go down to some, cheap Hilton hotel for 2 days. These have been really phenomenal trips where not only do we pay for the actual hotel, the flights, the accommodations, but we also always plan like a team building activity that we pay for as well. Last year it was the Manta Ray dive. The year before that, what did we do? It was the sugar cane.
Yeah, the tubing down the sugar canes.
Yeah, tubing down the sugar canes and stuff. Something that everybody can do if they want to, and that's been really a lot of fun. So, anyways.
Something that we just like to highlight.
I mean, I could spend an hour on a whole podcast, actually, and maybe we should sometime talking about some of these producer trips we've gone on. Boy, we could get a couple agents on here that would just gush about how much fun they've had.
Yeah, and, we got to wrap it up, but I do think it's important, right?
Yeah, we
those relationships.
We do have to wrap quick, but I will say in 5 minutes, in fact, Matt says. But, yep.
Okay, so we got so the way we kind of bring it all home on these presentations is we then talk about agent types and everything that we're talking about on this podcast continually. No agent, no two people are the same, right? And it is very difficult to get started in this industry. If you're an insurance agent that you want to get started in the field, and everybody wants to get in this industry for what? Residual income, residual commissions. Mm-hmm. However, most people aren't ever able to make it to that.
They're not in a financial
promised
situation
land
to do it.
Yeah, or they get into a they get into the business and they're just not quite financially structured. A lot of people aren't, to be able to make it through the financial difficulties of the first couple of months or year. And so we're always like, how do we solve problems? What other agent types can we offer for agents? But there's a few extra things in addition to what we've talked about that we do for all of our agents, regardless of how you set up with us. One of the things is...
So hold on. I'm going to jump in here and see if I can wrap in 5 minutes, because I think that's how long we have, right, Matt?
10.
Oh, okay. There we go. Fantastic. So we have 3 different agent types here at Agent Boost, really. We have agents that we actually employ and put on payroll that are W-2 agents. We have that. We also have, independent agents, right? Traditional field agents. And then we also have, LOA agents or captive agents, or call it what you want.
They're 1099
career agents, they're LOAs, but they're captive. We have that as an agent type. So we have those 3 different agent types. So which one do we want to talk about first, W-2?
Well, a couple things just to add, the CRM and all that stuff that we pay for. We'll also put you on our E&O insurance policy.
That's true.
So that will cover you it'll only cover you on the products that are aligned through Agent Boost. It's not going to cover you on if you have something else aligned with us, but that can save you a lot of money. I mean, I think E&O is between like $400 and $700 usually.
Correct.
So we'll put people on that as well. You get access to all the other things that we talked about earlier in the podcast.
Yep. So even independent agents, they all get our CRM for free. They get Sunfire for free. They get their agent success manager. They have access to co-op marketing, all those kinds of things. That's what we give traditional agents. Your direct pay, your commissions come direct to you from insurance carriers. You own your book of business. We don't. We do that very standard, and you have access to all of our training that we do, all of our live events, everything that we have to offer. It's open to you. So that's what we really do for our traditional field
Correct.
agents.
And you can possibly get co-op dollars depending on if they give them out or where the industry kind of goes or what happens there, at least at this current time being.
As of August 8th, you're good to go.
Yeah. But so traditional field agents, and that's how most people are, most agents, if you're producing, and a lot of you agents out there that are on have residual income, you're like, well, why would anybody do anything differently? Well, you've made it, right? You're kind of over that hump, but it's really difficult for a lot of people to get started in 2024. And so we do have, a virtual LOA model,
or like a captive career model.
Yeah. Captive career model. And it's different because we've essentially leveled out the compensation in the industry. We've made it a heaped lump sum commission. And this is more of like a virtual business in a box. And so if you're an agent that you want to be a traditional feet on the street, this isn't for you. This is for somebody who maybe you worked at a call center, maybe you just prefer doing business virtually.
You want to work from home on your computer screens.
Correct. And you maybe want to have a little bit more structure and oversight and leadership and accountability. This model's great. So we call it our LOA model. And full transparency, you do not own the policies on residual. We own those. We pay you a lump sum commission up front, and the benefits for these agents are they get paid every week. So every Monday we run the report, and then that Tuesday we send out the ETF every week
payments
on sales that are going into effect. And then every month we have a tier, and depending on the tier of how many sales, how many enrollments you were able to get, we'll pay you. And I don't know if we want to talk about those amounts. It's anywhere generally from $250 to $500 for enrollments on those. Per enrollment. The only chargebacks are if it disenrolls within the first 3 months, if it's a rapid disenroll, right? 93 days or the first 3 months. Outside of that, there's no chargebacks for that, okay? So we've also slim down a portfolio of carriers and generate leads in a market where we want to grow with carriers that want to grow.
Certain footprints.
And we provide leads. This is a fully lead supported opportunity.
The agent has to pay nothing. We give them all the tech. We give them our inbound, our outbound, all of our tech. They pay for none of it, which we have a little bit of a different, dialer system internally with it, but we pay that in completely. We provide all the leads. We essentially just say, hey, you just got to basically sign up, say yes, plug in, and go.
Put in the work.
Yep.
And this model does get inbound calls, consumer-generated inbound calls that we work on generating. And it's designed to be about a 50-50 split. On 50% of your enrollments would come from, inbound calls, and 50% would be calling qualified outbound leads or good outbound leads.
Yep.
And we do have, this is not some sort of pie in the sky, like, this agent might, but we have agents that routinely write 25 to 50 enrollments a month.
Per month during lock-in.
During lock-in, during September, July, August, September. And we've had agents write in the 80s to 90s on a monthly basis, good quality, business. And we've had an agent write over 1,000 enrollments in a year in this environment. And so this is a model where what the purpose is to get you really good at it, to make sure you know what you're doing, and then save up, be able to make some good cash, save up, and then if you want, transition over to being an independent agent, right?
Correct.
In this ecosystem, you are still your own business. You're a 1099. We contract with you. The only costs you are responsible for really are your licenses, and then
your taxes.
Correct. And Dan did mention we provide a different dialer system. It's a very sophisticated dialer. If you don't hit a very minimum production standpoint, we ask you to pay for the dialer seat. So just in case anybody comes back and says,
essentially, if you're losing us money,
yes, then we'll ask you to pay for just to not lose money. Carriers that we want to grow with in areas that we want to grow with. Again, this may or may not be appealing to some of you, but it's definitely the right opportunity for a lot of people.
Yep.
And it's been very effective, very popular, and we have a lot of agents currently on this model that are doing very well with it.
Yeah, and so going back to, what's the preference? Like, we understand it's just, how does an agent want to grow their first year or 2 or 3 years in the business? And it's, if you want to just start right off and be a field agent and slowly grind, that's awesome, but it's a tough grind, like we all know it. Or you can get in a model like this, sell a lot, and if you're making, $500 per enrollment times 30 in a month, you can do the math. You're making really good money. And so it's obviously that you can do that. Like Mike said, hopefully the thought is that you're saving 20, 30, 40 grand a year, putting it into your piggy bank, and at some point you can say, I actually want to be an independent agent and grow my own business and my own book. Perfect. And we encourage and support that.
Correct. So, and on either of those models, we do have the Medicare Advocates branding that we built, the Health Plan Advocates branding. At this time, that's a Medicare opportunity. We've worked on an ACA version of that, but just with all the the changes this year, that's
TBD.
That's
it's a moving target with CMS.
Exactly. That's kind of not something that we really want to go to market with at this current time. But that's kind of, all that's the agent boost value prop.
The last thing that I will tell you too, and before we completely burn out our memory cards and keep going, is we also have built in people in these ecosystems a lot of their drip campaigns that we've set for them, automated for them. We've made it to where agents who are selling in these ecosystems have things set up to help close more deals with our drip campaigns and our post-enrollment campaigns that we're constantly doing for people via text message, voicemails, and then even our fulfillment services that we're offering, where agents can pay to automate touch points to their clients throughout the year, which is huge for retention, but also for referrals and growing their business.
Yeah, we didn't go very deep on the fulfillment, but that's something that we're doing.
Highly valuable.
Highly valuable, and our agents love it that participate in that. So,
just to give you an idea, we're charging people basically, we make no money on it. It's a complete offset net for us. And I think we're usually charging like $16 per member or per enrollment that somebody does, and they're getting multiple touch points throughout the year to kind of retain that business and get referrals.
Yep.
So it's huge. Absolutely.
So, if you are interested in working, this wasn't necessarily meant to just be an advertisement. Hopefully, somebody if you listen to this big long episode or the 2 episodes, however we did it, you got some value out of it. But if you are interested in working with us, there's a link to contract below in the description, no matter how you're listening to this, and also on YouTube that'll take you right there, or just reach out to us. Hopefully everybody is getting the support that they need. If you're not, we've talked about it on prior podcasts. Sometimes it can be a little bit of short-term upfront difficulty, but I promise if you're not making it in this business, we'd love to have you, and we'd love to partner with you.
Yep. That's all we got before we, again, I'm worried that we'll even be able to get this episode to market.
I know my camera's still going.
I don't know about my camera, but I think we're good to go. Anyways, appreciate you all. We actually have 2 more episodes coming up within the next week. So this was your paid promotional advertising on behalf of Agent Boost Marketing.
Thanks, guys.
Catch you later.